Okay, so today we are going to see what do we mean by the structures. Now in structure we have seen arrays earlier, where we have the data of the same type, like say if we are declaring array A, say int a square bracket 20, then obviously we mean that there will be 20 elements to be stored in array A, and their positions are from position 0. Now all the data that we are storing in array, those data items, data elements, they will be of the same type. So array contains the data of the same type. But there are quite a few locations where we are required to have the data of this different types to be occupying the consecutive memory locations. Now all the elements in array, occupy consecutive memory locations. But what if we have different data types, data elements to occupy consecutive memory locations, as there could be a case in several problems, say where we are required to store data of a particular student. Now in that case we are required to go for declaration of a structure. So the keyword that we use is struct, and suppose I declare student or stud, then within it I can define, say, integer roll number, then there can be character name, say of 30 characters each, then it can be integer dd YY, which happens to be the date of the birth, and say character, there will be mobile number. Now I am using character mobile number with the simple reason that integer has got limit of 32,000, whereas our mobile numbers are of 10 digits long, so we might go for mobile number as character type. And this is how we declare the structure. Now see here that this is going to consume 2 bytes, name is going to consume 30 characters, that is 30 bytes. Now there are 3 integers for date, month and year, so in all 6 bytes will be used, and mobile number is again consuming 12 bytes. So the total of, we have total of 32 plus 6, 38, in all 50 bytes to occupy the consecutive memory locations. Now suppose we are required to read the data of some number of students, then I have just declared the structure, and now I can declare, say, struct student is the user defined data type, and I am going to define S to store, say, 10 students. So this is array of structures. Now we can always ask the user as how many students are there. So we can ask how many students, and of course we can handle maximum 10, and then we will accept the number of students from the user, say n. Now of course we are required to check whether this n is less than 10. We cannot just believe on the user, and so we say repeat this. So this is strictly a do while loop, while n is greater than 10, because we have a limit of 10. And once user gives this, then we can say for I equal to 0, I less than n, because user is saying n students are there. I am required to give the data of all the students. And now it is interesting to see how are we going to access it. So I will say printf, it will be of course roll number, and we accept the roll number which is integer of whom, of the ith student, and that to the field is roll number. We have declared, you can see here, we have declared roll over there, so we will be accepting the roll number. And this dot operator or period operator tells us that it is the roll number of ith student, s of I. Then we will be always asking name of the student, and we will be using getS, so I am saying flush all, and then I will say getS, it will be s of I dot name. Then I will be asking date of birth, and of course I will have to specify that it is dd/mm/YYYY is the format, and so user will have to give it in this format, otherwise there will be a problem. So now here for the first time in scanf, I will be giving the format %d/%d/%d, and then it will be ampersand s of I dot dd, comma ampersand s of I dot mm, comma ampersand s of I dot yy, and so the date of birth is accepted. And finally the mobile number, so it will be printf mobile number. Now this requires a bit patience to type this particular code and run it. Again, mobile number is string, so I will be using flush all, and then it will be getS s of I dot mobile, and then this will run for n times because we are asking the user to enter it. And now we are required to even print it just to confirm. So I will say here printf given data is, and we will again go for I equal to 0, I less than n, I plus plus, and it will be simply a printf statement. It will be %d, then %s, that is name, then %d/%d/%d, that is date of birth, and again %s, that is the mobile number. And we are going to print s of I dot roll number, s of I dot name, then s of I dot dd, comma s of I dot mm, comma s of I dot yy. So the date of birth is printed, and finally s of I dot mobile, and so everything will get printed. And we will just put a halt here and check if it is compilation through. There is one error, and that error is because of this colon which I have put by mistake. And now if we run it, it is asking how many students, maximum 10. So suppose we enter 3, roll number 1, name is Aditi Abhyankar, date of birth 02/09/19994, and mobile number 9822012345, and then it is asking for the second student. So it will be say Swanand and date of birth 02021997 and mobile number 990099112221. Roll number 3, so it is 1901 1968, mobile number 98220 and we can see that the data is printed. Only thing is, this data is not appearing in the column form, just with the problem that we have not assigned any format. Now this is the time when we should learn for the format, and now I will just store it as a new program. So this was our first one, and it is to be saved as say prog0047.c. Now these comments we don't require now. We will accept the data. Now see, while printing, I will say that roll number can be printed in 3 digits. Name we have assigned 30 characters. So then I will say leave a space and give 30s. So there will be name to be printed in 30. It is 2 digits of date, 2 digits of month, and obviously 4 digits of the year, and again mobile number is of 12 digits. And now you will see the difference once I assign the format. So you have this previous output, and now suppose I say again 3, roll number 1, say Aditi Gokhale, date of birth 02091982, mobile number 9982012345, roll number 2, Swanan Vaidya, date of birth 04/11/1996, mobile number 9822001122, and then roll number 3, say it is 19/01/1968 9822026673. And now you see that they are exactly aligned. And observe that integer values as well as the strings, they are put in the right aligned format. And so this is the way we can use the structures. So when I access the data of the ith student, it will be always stored one after the other. So even in the memory, first the roll number is stored, then the name, then the date of birth, and so on. So this will be the easiest type of code. Now once we see this code, at the same time we can go ahead, and I am going to save it again as prog0048.c now, and instead of this ddmmyy, I will go for one more structure which I am going to define as struct date, and it will obviously contain the 3 fields int, dd, mmyy. And as I declare this particular structure, instead of using this dd mmyy, I will say here it is struct date types dob, because this date structure we will require every now and then. So let us declare it once and use it everywhere. Now once this struct date is dob is declared, now when I read number of students and roll number and name, there is no problem. But while reading the date of birth, now s of I, that particular structure doesn't contain dd, instead it contains dob. So this dob, so what we are going to read is s of I, which contains date of birth, उसमें से dd field. Then it will be s of I, which contains dob as a variable, which is again a structure. Out of that and it will be dob dot yy. So that will take the input. Now by chance I don't make changes in the lower structure where I will have to make these changes in the printf, I am likely to get compilation error, and that it says that these are the undefined symbols, because now s of I does not contain dd, it contains dob's dd, it contains dob's and dob's yy. And once we make these changes, then your program will be error free and will be executed exactly in the same manner. There will be no change in the output. Output won't change, input won't change. Our program structure has changed, with the simple reason now we are using the nested structure. So this will be the concept of nested structures. It is even possible that I can temporarily declare the structure inside a structure also. Now I have the structure declared outside, and it is going to give me the same effect. So these structures will be very useful, and you can have several data items to occupy the whose types are different to occupy the consecutive memory locations. Rest everything is just like our usual programming, but now we are making the grouping very proper. Now I can go further, because next question will be obviously how are we going to pass them as parameters, and so it will be program 49.c, where I will be having a function as it is void types read data, to which I will be passing struct student types, say p, and of course it is array, and it is integer n. Now whatever read we have written over here, this entire read will now be the part of read data. So I am just moving the code from there, and where I had written that code, I will be just calling read data, to which I am passing s comma n. So I am supposed to read n elements in array s, which is of struct student type. But here that array name I have changed locally as p, and let us change this n to m. So value of n will be transferred to m. Now here I will be using m, and of course I is the local variable, so I must declare it. Now it will not be s of I, so it will be p of I dot name, p of I dot roll number, everything will be p of I. So of course you could have used s of I also, but you will have to remember that s of I which is there in main and s of I which you will be using in the function, those are different. By mistake we assume them to be same, and there will be a problem. Now once I do this and compile, of course it will be error free. And now similarly this print function, I can write it as print again, and so there will be one more function which will be void print data, to which again I am passing struct student types, say p, which has got m elements, and then it is I will have this again, the local variable I is to be declared, and as I am passing p, it should be p, or here I can use s, it does not make any difference because this is just for our reference. And then after read data I can straight away say print data s comma n, and the program will execute exactly in the same manner, no change in it. Of print data is taking m, and so there are two students, roll number 1, which is 0101 1999, mobile number 9822012345, roll number 2, Omkar 01 12 1991, mobile number 9822001122, and the data will be. So you have seen 3 different approaches where we have plain structure, we have a structure inside a structure, and then we have used functions, and every time so far as the user is concerned, he is not aware as whether there are any internal changes. Now even for the input, if you want to align the input data, it is very well possible. Then for that you will have to make certain changes, which I am going to show you now, because this input itself here is staggered. The things are not exactly in the aligned manner. So for that there is nothing great that one has to do, but it will be, I will be just concentrating on this. It is roll number. Now date of birth, I will be saying date of birth is to be inputted and format should be below it. So it is the longest statement that I have. So I will say date of birth colon, and over there I will go for a new line, or I will give date of birth colon new line, and I will go for one more printf statement. So it will be printf double quotes all this, and now see, for name also I am going to align this colon with this column, so it has to be here. For roll number, for name also it has to be there only, fine, and for mobile number it is exactly over there. And so when we go for the code to be executed, you will find the certain difference into it. It is not saved. So there are two students, roll number 1. Now see, here the input was not aligned. Now even the input is aligned. 0101 210. Okay, and then 982208. Let it be 2. Then now only I have aligned the input. So once you do this, this is going to be the easiest task. So handling the structures is very important when you go for programs which are related to the databases and so on. So this is the simple code where we are taking the structure, we are defining the structure, there is a structure inside a structure, variables are declared, we are writing the functions, and these functions are not returning anything, so they are of void type. Otherwise the code is simple and straightforward. You can imagine that if we don't have this particular structure facility, then we would have declared one array of roll numbers, which is integer type, one array of names, another array of only date, then month, then year. So 1 2 3 4 5 and 6 different arrays we would have declared, and that would have been a total chaos. And every time when we are talking about, say, second student, in every array you are required to go to the second position, and all those are stored consecutively, all roll numbers are stored consecutively, all names are stored consecutively. But now here we have the advantage that after that roll number we have the name, after the name we have the date of birth and mobile. So that is the main advantage. We will be saving a lot of execution time because data access becomes faster. So now we go for some interesting features of C language, and one has to understand what exactly happens out of it. And these are normally asked when the aptitude test on C is conducted, and these are, some of them are quite common, but changing the position of them itself might create the problems. Now suppose I have two variables. Now I am not going to take any input or so. Suppose I has value 5, and then I perform I is equal to, or rather j is equal to I plus plus, and the simple question is, after this if I print I and j, what are the values that we are expecting? Now obviously here you might expect that j is 6, because we are performing I plus plus. I plus plus is, it is post increment, and that's why the problem is there. It will first assign the value and then increment. So expected output is 6 and 5. Let us run it, and it is 6 5. Okay, let us clear it. I will go for clear screen, and the same code that I have, one has to consider, can I print the code itself is another question. I want to see even the code, and then so it is KC, and I'm going to say printf. What I want to see is I plus I equal to this new line, and then j equal to I plus plus. After this, what is the output? This is what I want to see, and then I will say of I and j are. So I'm going to simply put it this way. Of course the code will remain, so we can even see the question as if. So it is I equal to 5 and j equal to I plus plus. Values of I and j are, and they come out to be 6 and 5. Right? Now once this is done, we can even go for another case, and again I is initially 5 and j is going to be plus plus I, and then values of I and j are. So even in the printing it has to be like that. So it is plus plus I. This is just to make you understand what exactly I am doing. So I is 5 and j equal to I plus plus, it is 6 5. Now again I is 5 and it is plus plus, so first it will increment and then assign. Values are to be 6 6. So that is the difference between pre-increment and post-increment. One has to be very careful while using it. Post-increment says that first you use the value and then increment. Pre-increment says that first you increment and then assign. And so once again, I is 5, j equal to I plus plus, it will first assign the value of I and then increment I. So j gets value 5 and then I becomes 6. Next time when I is 5 and j is plus plus I, so it will first increment I, it will become 6, and then assign, it will be 6. Now in the same series we even have something interesting where we are required to print. Now I am again going to say I equal to 5, and I am going to printf %d. So two values I want to print, and those are going to be I comma I plus plus, and let us see what output we get. And it will be printf printing I plus plus. This is the particular case that we are going to see. Okay, what it will print. Very typical, I remains 5 again. So this is 6566 I's AR, and then when you are printing I and plus plus I plus plus, it is printing 6 and 5. Now that is again the interesting case. I repeat it again. I is 5, printing I and I plus plus, it has printed 6 and 5. Why? Because initially value, it doesn't go from left to right, it goes from right to left. So initially it is I plus plus, so value of I is to be printed and then it has to be incremented. And so when it comes to the first I, it becomes 6. So output is 6, 5. We add one more. Now I am going to print I and plus plus I, or rather I would say I plus plus I. First is plus plus I and then I plus plus. This is what I am printing. I is initially 5. Now the expected output here, it will be first 5 and then it should print 7 at the first position. Because it has first printed, it goes from right to left. First it is value of I, which is 5, incremented 6, then it is pre-incremented, so it becomes 7, and then that is printed. And in the last case, which is a bit what I would say repeatedly has been asked in the common aptitude, the moment you remember it is left to right and right to left, I suppose your job should be simple. So I am printing I comma I plus plus I comma I plus plus, and if the three values are to be printed, I am printing the things again and again, but that is okay. And now it is 775, and that's why I said that it is compiler dependent. We are running it in Turbo C, Borland C++, and so the output is from right to left and it works out to be correct. And every time you will have to work it out. Now next time if I go for something more interesting, saying that it is printing I plus plus, then I, and then plus plus I, then again the output is going to be very much different. And so I will have to print first I plus plus, then I, and then plus plus I. It comes from right to left. Initially it will become 6 on the right hand side. Then it comes to print I, so it is again 6 only. And then it comes to the first one and it is still 6, and the output should be 666. And then the whole jugglery is among this particular sequence. It is executed from right to left. It has to be remembered. So one of the most important code related to pre-increment and post-increment. Now let us go for one more sample example. Suppose I declare int a comma b comma c, and I assign the value to a as say 4 and b is assigned value 7, and I perform something like c is equal to, it is a plus 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 b semicolon, and we are trying to print as %d, %d, and we are going to print values of course a comma b comma c. First of all, we will have to check whether this particular code is error free, because I am using triple plus here. Now this may result in two meanings, as it is a plus 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 b, or it can be a plus 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 b. And then you will have to remember as what it has taken. Now in first case, what is the expected output? It should first consider a value of a, that is 4, and it will be 4 plus 7, and so C should take value 11, whereas A will become 5. And in the second case, it will be 4 plus 8. The expected answer should be 12 because it is pre-increment, and B will be 8. So let us run it. First of all, we should get it as error free, and I don't think we got it as error free. So compiler is going to take one of these two decisions, and so if we run it, it is 5, 7, 11. That means A has incremented. This first interpretation is correct and the second one is wrong. So we say that it is C equal to A plus 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 B and not otherwise. That is the interesting case. So one of the important code. Now if we go for one more, where I will be using, now there won't be any ambiguity into it, this was ambiguous, I am going to use 5 plus. Now expected interpretation is A plus 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 B. That means it should be using value of A, that is 4, incrementing B, that is it is 8. So C will become 12 and then B will become 8. But first of all, it should be error free, and then there are errors. It is showing that it is L plus L value is required. Now this is very interesting, that 5 plus signs are actually unambiguous, but it is still giving us the error. So if I use the spaces, and then it will be error free. So this is interesting. So this is 5 plus signs is not allowed. Compiler cannot take the decision here. Okay, so it is, that means the post, and of course output as we expect is 5, 8 and 12. So again one of the simple sample code, but the interesting one, right? And you cannot have plus plus pre and post operators simultaneously. Let's go for the use of this plus plus very effectively, and I'm going to write the program, say int n, and then I'm going to have some character s of length, say 20, which is going to be a string, and I will be asking the user enter the string, and I will scanf it as s. Of course with string we don't require ampersand, and so I will say n is equal to strlen of s and printf length is equal to %d, that is n. This is what we want to see, and we want to check as how many different ways we can write this particular function string length. And so it is, I will call this as string length 1. So I first of all write it is int strlen 1, to which I am going to pass character s, and of course the usual thing is int I equal to 0, and we will say while s of I is not equal to backslash 0, which is end of the string marker, you will have to increment I and then return I. So position of backslash 0 itself is the length. We'll first run this. So if I enter Abhay, length is 5. So this works fine. This is the most preliminary one. Now suppose I write one more and I think of using plus plus, and I say why I want this I plus plus here. Instead of that, can I use s of I plus plus, compare and increment, okay, and return I, of course. So this is my strlen2, and I will pass the same one to function strlen2, and let us check whether it works properly, and if not, we will have to analyze. So it is 5 and length is 1. Oh, that's the problem. It is returning 1 only in strlen2. It is while s of I plus plus not equal to backslash 0. Because it is written 1, we have missed the semicolon. It has to be a semicolon. There is no body to this particular loop. Now again I enter the same name, length is 5 and it has given length 6. And so it creates a problem. Because when it has first used it, and that is position 5 was backslash 0, and then it has incremented and condition is false. So here it doesn't work. Now this did not work, I found out. So now I thought, will it work for plus plus I? And I think it should. 1, 2. So that tells us as where plus plus I and I plus plus are to be used properly. One position here and there and you are just lost. And then one more function which I can now modify and write, strlen3. I am just showing you as how compact the code could be and how difficult the programming will be. The code is only this, and that is strlen3, and even this should give us the correct answer. And it uses the basic concept as backslash 0 means character 0 means not character 0, special 0 means false. So I again enter the same 5, 5 and 5. So it works properly. This could be the most compact code that we have. And if we want to even simplify it further, then you can use for loop, but then semicolons will come into picture. But this code will be the most difficult one to understand. One line finding the length of the string. 3 different ways. Of course, one can write it using for loop also, but that will be identical to this only. Because what you will have is, instead of this, you will be having something like for I equal to 0, s of I not equal to backslash 0, I plus plus, and there won't be any body for it. So only this statement is, these two will be removed and will be replaced by only 1. Out of that you have even initialized I equal to 0, so even this is not required. So even this will work. But compared to this would be the most compact. Okay, so that will be the proper use of plus plus I and I plus plus. In this particular case, I plus plus does not work. Right?